Hello, everybody. Welcome to Talk About House. I'm Todd.
I'm Juana.
Okay, we're going to talk about the situation where you're getting ready to sell your house, but you have not yet filed a building permit. You have unpermitted work. We actually did have a listing that we just sold a few months ago. Didn't have permit.
Yes.
The thing on the back. Okay, so Juana, here's the scenario. You show up at a listing appointment. You have all the tax documents. You say, oh, I see your house is 2,000 square feet. They go, oh, no, it's actually 2,400. What are the two excuses you generally hear why they have done work to the house, but they haven't gone and done a permit?
So the two general excuses that we hear are, one, I didn't want to have to pay the additional property tax, so that's why I didn't pull permits and let the government know that I have a bigger house. And number two is the cost and the time that it takes to pull the permits.
Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to go through the reasons why this is a bad idea. There's a lot of bad things that can happen here. You can make it worse for yourself, especially if you're getting ready to sell. And then maybe a solution for like how you can make this better on yourself.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So let's start with one. Building code violations. Unpermitted work that violates local building codes can result in fines. These varies by jurisdiction, but can range from $100 to thousands of dollars. For example, in California, fines for unpermitted construction can reach $500 per violation, with additional daily penalties for non-compliance. Daily penalties for non-compliance. Imagine this: you're in California. You did a permit, you had work done maybe 10 years ago, and the state can prove you did it, never got a permit. This could be super costly, right?
It could be super costly. Think of it like the way HOA fines work, right, where they just keep building. It's the same thing, except that these are fines from the government.
Oh, there is a potential where the fine can be more than the permitting or excess property taxes, or would have been.
Almost every time, actually, because the property taxes are nominal, if any, and the permitting costs, at least here in Las Vegas, are very nominal.
Okay, here's another one: costly corrections. If unpermitted work is discovered, you may be required to demolish or redo it to meet code, incurring significant expenses. For instance, unpermitted electrical work may need to be torn out and replaced by a licensed contractor.
Right. So this happens quite a bit when people do the work themselves, or a friend or relative does the work and it's not up to code.
The one I've seen in Vegas is bank-owned home, got it assigned, did the BPO. The bank said, we show on the tax record it has a garage. Well, I took a picture of the outside and they finished the whole thing. They literally took out the garage door and made it like a room.
Right.
Like it was finished part of the house, but the tax record didn't show that.
Right. So the thing that I want to say about codes is that the code changes, but if the code changes and that your addition or whatever work you've had done is permitted, then you're grandfathered in. So let's say that your friend or you did everything according to code, but it's not permitted. Well, then you don't get grandfathered in because your work wasn't permitted.
Here's another one: homeowners insurance policy violations. Most homeowners insurance policies require compliance with building codes and permits. Unpermitted improvements, especially major ones like room additions or electrical upgrades, can void your coverage if they're deemed hazardous or non-compliant. So you have some wiring, it catches on fire. You could be like, the house could literally, you could burn down your house, or some bad thing could happen, and it could come in later and go, hey, what's this? Oh, guess what? Now you're not covered for a while.
Right. So we all know that insurance companies aren't always great about honoring their coverage, so you really don't want to give them an excuse to not honor their coverage.
Okay, what about limited coverage, where maybe the addition burns down or you have a problem and they say, well, or here's a better example. A worker comes to your house and they're doing work and they fall through the roof that was unpermitted, and you go, oh, I'm just going to get my homeowner's insurance to cover that. But it wasn't a permitted thing. It was just a roof that like your friend put together that wasn't very strong and someone fell through it.
So again, you don't want to give the insurance company a reason to deny your claim.
Okay, let's talk about this from a practical standpoint. Disclosure requirements. In most states, sellers must disclose unpermitted work to buyers. Can lower the home's value because it may demand discounts to cover retroactive permitting, repairs, A 2023 Redfin article noted that unpermitted additions can reduce sales price by 10 to 20%. Competitive markets want you don't take buyers out, but you find out that the house they really like has unpermitted something in it, and now this is just like finding, like in the attic they had sawed off pieces of the truss because they put a heater up there, and they just cut out pieces of the support system for the roof, right? They find out there's something unpermitted. They may either want a big discount, so you're not really saving any money. It's like maybe costing yourself money, right? Have you had something like that happen? Tell us about a time where something not permitted going downhill.
Right. So this happens all the time. Buyers, particularly buyers that have not owned a lot of properties, come across through the home inspection usually something that is unpermitted, or maybe it's even disclosed on the seller disclosures that something's unpermitted, and they're looking at that and they're thinking, you know what, I don't know that I want to deal with that, and they'll walk away. Or it may even negatively impact their ability to obtain financing. So that may be a reason that they may still love the house, but they can't obtain financing because of the unpermitted work.
And the appraiser will probably figure it out when he grabs the tax data, comes to the house, looks through it, and goes, the house square footage doesn't add up. And then they go, oh yeah, well, we just haven't done the permits yet.
Right. And the other thing that buyers think about is they think about resale, right? So maybe they do love the house. Maybe they don't really care that something wasn't permitted, but they think, well, but the buyer that I'm going to have when I'm ready to sell my house, at that time, maybe that buyer will care, and I'm going to have a harder time selling the house. So perhaps I need to find a house that doesn't have these issues.
Okay, what about legal liability? You failed to disclose, so many years ago you forgot that something was permitted, not permitted, and you sell the house, and then later on you find out they're suing you.
Right.
Have you had one of those, or
sure? I mean, yeah. So that does happen. It happens where the seller didn't disclose. So depending on your state, there are all kinds of penalties for non-disclosure, all the way up to reversing the sale.
I remember a story about an elevator or something. Is that common? Have elevators not permitted or something like that?
It does happen. So here's the thing about elevators. Again, this is a situation where
in a residential house.
Right.
Okay.
So this is a situation where things get grandfathered in, right? So a long time ago, elevators in residential properties did not have to be permitted. Okay, so because they didn't have to be permitted, there weren't specific codes that dealt with them. So people, when they had their homes built, they had elevators put in, and so then many years later, people go to sell these homes, and now they have issues because these elevators they're not permitted, they're not according to current code, and that sort of thing. So that's a situation where that has to be ameliorated in order for the buyer to want to move forward. So one of the things that I've seen is elevators that have a greater gap than what's code. So the gap between, for example, where the elevator ends and the wall, so that there's a space there, and so that's deemed dangerous because somebody can have some their hand caught in there or whatever. And so that's dangerous. So all kinds of things have to be ameliorated. So it is important that you get everything done according to code, and that you get things permitted, so that you have, first of all, you have a safe home in which to live, and then it makes selling your home easier when you're ready to do that.
In our MLS, we do not get to just make up a number and stick it into the square foot bedrooms. Stuff like that is pulled from tax. You have to have a huge reason to change it.
Well, right. So you can only change the square footage in the MLS two ways. One, through the tax record, right, which the MLS already feeds from the tax record, so you really can't change it that way, or through an appraisal. So if you get an appraisal and the appraiser measures the house, then you can submit that to the MLS, and they will change the square footage, and it will match the appraisal. But in that instance, you can also do the same thing and have that filed with the county, and then the county will update their records, which updates the tax record, which automatically updates the MLS as well. This is really important so that you get the most value for your home when you go to sell it.
A lot of times I will see people say, well, it's really 2,400 square feet, so that's the price I want for the house. It's not 2,000 square feet. The problem is the MLS is pushing out 2,000 feet. So buyers are seeing that going, oh, it's only a 2,000 square foot house. I can get this 2,400 square foot house for, basically the same money. Why, I'll just ignore that one. In a competitive market, it may not be that big of a deal, but there's some markets right now where we have the highest inventory we've had in 5 or 6 years, and you don't want to have anything like this. Right.
And then sometimes the square footage is just plain wrong. So let me give you an example. Let's say that you bought a new home and you had an option, right? Whether you could have a cathedral ceiling or you could have a loft put in, and you opted for the loft, but the builder never filed those documents with the county.
Yep.
And so now the county thinks that you have the cathedral ceiling, so you have less square footage. So that's another circumstance in which you can get the county to correct that oversight and then have the correct square footage reflected.
All right. So what's the ultimate advice for somebody if they're saying to themselves, I think I'm going to sell my house in a few months, but I have this unpermitted thing?
So if you have something unpermitted, I would get somebody, a contractor to come out, take a look, make sure that everything's done to code, and then contact the county. And you can get your improvement, whatever that is, retroactively permitted. It is not super expensive at all. It is a little more cumbersome than if you do it, as you're building the improvement, but it's not absolutely hideous at all. Here in Clark County, it goes pretty fast. They make it very easy for you. It's not expensive, and it's well worth doing for 2 reasons. One, so that your improvement is permitted and it makes it easier for you to sell the property. And 2, for safety reasons, because then you know that the property is safe. And again, it gives that buyer assurance that they're purchasing good product.
Yep.
All right.
That's it.
So I hope that was interesting to you. Please remember to like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share the video, and leave us your real estate related comments. Do you have improvements on your property that are not permitted? Did you have to get them permitted after the fact? Tell us the story. We love hearing your stories. We'll see you on the next video. Bye.
Bye.